The Boyle Sports Irish Grand National takes place later on at Fairyhouse. Now I'm joined in the studio by Nick Watts to give a quick preview of the race. Wattsy, we're just going to spin through some towards the top of the market. First off, we've got Burrows Saint at around 7-1. Let's address him first. Willie Mullins has never won this race, unbelievably, but he looks his #1 chance this time around.
Yeah, definitely, and Ruby's chosen him as well, which is an obvious positive. You mentioned he hasn't won the race before. Of course, he came within inches of winning it last year with Isle of Hope and Dreams in that crazy finish.
As you can see there.
Yeah, 5 in the line almost at the end of 3 miles 5 on heavy ground. It was an extraordinary race. But yeah, it's worth pointing out, massive difference this year in the ground, and that'll make for a different race, I think. Last year was very, very attritional. This year I think you'll see more finishes, it's going to be more open, but always in the Irish National, expect the unexpected. So the fact that Burrows Saint is favourite, it almost kind of puts you off a little bit, because there's been some crazy results in this race in the last 10 years, it really has. It's difficult to rule out any.
Yeah, he's got a nice profile, isn't he? I mean, he won the Grade 3 last time, he's stayed 3 miles and half a furlong, I think that was. You can see why he's the obvious favourite, but as you say, at the head of the market, maybe you'll be looking elsewhere for a bit of value. If we move on to Any Second Now, a horse that Cheltenham Festival fans will be familiar with, won the Kinmure, that was over 3 miles, 2 furlongs. He's a really strong stayer, trained by Ruby Walsh's father Ted. Wears the blinkers. Is he a bit high in the weights now, though?
Yeah, possibly, but these are very specialist races, these kind of nationals. You know, you think of the Aintree Nationals as being obviously very hard to win, and there's a lot of cut and thrust, and you have to be, you know, you have to cope with being hampered, horses in front of you, horses around you. This is very similar, and you have to be one of those, you know, very small band of horses that actually relish this kind of occasion. Any Second Now, it might be a bit high in the weights, but I like the fact that he won the Kinmure last time out, because that's a big field handicap chase in a cauldron like Cheltenham, and he's shown that he can cope with it admirably, so he should cope with it today. I'll be a bit more concerned about the ground. He might want it a bit softer than he's going to get, and there's something that Ted Walsh has alluded to in the run up to the race as well. Like I said, strange conditions for an Irish National. You used to, you know, certainly on last year's evidence, used to it being a bit more nutritional than it will be today. So might be a few in there. Isle of Hope and Dreams would be another one who would really be at the top of my radar if the ground was soft or heavy, but it's not.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Tom Siegel actually mentioned that since 2000, only 2 horses have won carrying 11 stone or more, Comanche Court and Our Duke, both of whom wouldn't have been out of place in a Gold Cup. They both ran in it, I believe. So Any Second Now, though, he has got a big task on, but obviously he's proven in the conditions. We'll move on to Jury Duty, who you're a bit of a fan of. Again, he's at around the 12-1 mark, similar to Any Second Now. American Grand National winner, but this is going to be slightly different.
Yeah, I was kind of cursing my luck a little bit at Aintree, because he managed to make it around the first circuit, and he was just creeping into the race really nicely. And you know, if you make it around the first circuit at Aintree and there's a few holes left in the fences, you kind of breathe a sigh of relief and think, well, your horse has got a chance now. So the fact that he just dragged himself through one at the 18th and unshipped Robbie Power was really, really frustrating, because I could have seen him, and the betting suggested as well that a massive run was expected. Although, you know, nobody would have wanted it to spoil the story, of course. But yeah, no, he didn't get that far. That he should still be a relatively fresh horse today. He jumped round 17, no problem at all. He didn't get to the end of the race, so he was spared a difficult, tough race in that at Liverpool. So I would expect, for similar reasons, I thought he'd run well at Aintree. I think he'll run well here, and I think he'll handle the ground as well. He's been over to America and, like you said, won on a decent surface. So I think ground is immaterial to him, and he's normally a very safe jumper. I was surprised to see him make a mistake at Aintree. He's normally very good in that department. So yes, I would. Obviously, Gordon Elliott has got loads in the race, but he would come to the fore for me. As out of those market leaders, I do like him. Yeah,
he does seem to have the right profile. A lot of people are going to be latching onto him. Fourth on our list is the 4th favourite, PAIROFBROWNEYES, again 12-1-ish, and the Leinster National winner beat Isle of Hope and Dreams, we've talked about, who was beaten in this race last year. He does seem a bit in and out though, but has he been primed for this day? Another Willie Mullins runner.
Well, you definitely say he's been primed for the day, because he could have taken his chance in the Grand National at Aintree. He was a very late withdrawal from that. And Willie Mullins, there wasn't anything wrong with the horse. His reasoning was that he wanted to keep him fresh for the Irish National, so it's definitely been a plan for him. He's had a nice light campaign and won last time out. Yeah, he's got a good chance. I mean, overlooked by Ruby this time, but you know.
I think Paul Townend's done a lot of winning on him, hasn't he? So I wouldn't necessarily see that as a negative, would you?
No, not massively. No, I mean, with any of these Elliott and Mullins horses, when they run multiple horses, you can't really rule out any of them on jockey bookings because, as we saw last year with General Principle winning, they've all got a squeak of some description, and it's just a case of the jockeys have so many to choose from. You can only pick one. That doesn't mean to say that other ones don't come into the equation. Yeah,
100%. Gigginstown, they've got 12 runners this year. We'll move on to talk about some of those in a little while, but Shady Operator is next. My selection for the race, I was really keen on him. He is still quite unexposed. He's a young horse. He had a good bits and pieces of form with Ballywood and Say Jersey back at Punchestown in December. 7th in the Close Brothers last time when he was impeded. Have you had a look at him at all?
I've had a look at all of them, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, there's so many. It's you know, it's like the Aintree race all over again. You're just scanning through the field, and little bits and pieces come to light, and you know, interest you, and you could fancy half a dozen. The Shady Operator definitely comes into that bracket. I like that win on New Year's Eve when he beat Ballyward.
Yeah.
That form shown in good light because Ballyward won a graded race. I think it was at Nace after that. Yeah. Obviously, sad what happened to him at Cheltenham, but I think the form, that actual piece of form is good. Yeah. It stands up. Yeah, I mean, he's like you said, he didn't run at all badly at Cheltenham last time out. Probably does want this longer trip. So, yeah, he certainly comes into the equation. But like I said, with about 15 others.
Yeah, he's been well back for the race, and I backed him on earlier on this week. So fingers crossed. I think his jumping, that's the main concern. As you say, it's a bit of a haphazardous race. So if he can stay in there with a chance for one so inexperienced and young, then I think I'll be in with a shout. We've mentioned the Gigginstown horses. There's loads of others we could talk about. But quickly, before I sort of get a nap from your main selection, who do you think could be in with a shout?
Well, I quite like DOUNIKOS from or Shattered Love as well. I think we ought to mention she could have gone to Aintree as well, but Gordon Elliott saved her for this. She's a mare. She's got so much class. You know, she won a Grade 1 in really good style at Cheltenham last season.
In the Gold Cup.
Yeah, and got good bits and pieces of form this season as well. I don't think she ran that badly in the Cheltenham Gold Cup last time, and I'm not sure it's lack of stamina that let her down. I've always thought she'd stay a trip really well, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a big run from her. But the other one I do like, it's a really in and out kind of horse, is DOUNIKOS, and that's another Gigginstown horse trained by Gordon
I've got
Elliott.
A love-hate relationship with this horse.
Well, I think a lot of people will do, because he has a very in and out profile. There's no getting away from that. He could either run a massive race or he could be pulled up. It's one thing or the other. There's no in-betweens with him. But if you look back to his form of last season, when he was in a kind of rich vein of form throughout the campaign, he finished 4th in the Flogas. He was less than, or just about a length behind Album Photo in a Grade 1. Really, really good form. Now, after that, he kind of went off the boil. He was off the boil this season, but then he came back with a brilliant win in a Grand National trial at Punchestown a couple of months ago. And he was really, really impressive and quietly fancied for Aintree by a few people on the back of that. But again, he kind of reverted back to his old ways.
I thought he ran well for a long way, but with him, he's just a bit tricky, isn't he? Sometimes he seems to fancy it, others he doesn't.
He can be a bit tricky, and I would forgive any horse a bad run around Aintree. Not all of them take to the job or enjoy the experience of it. I think back on home turf, he did run in this race last season, but he was kind of in a negative mindset then. He'd kind of gone off the boil. The ground was atrocious last year, and Gordon Elliott didn't say in the paper today that's worth noting this, that he thought he'd be much, much better suited to this good ground here today. I would expect a much better run from DOUNIKOS, and people probably say, well, he's a bit high in the weights. He might be, but if you look back to that Flogas form, which isn't very long ago, obviously with Album Photo, invitation only was just in front of him that day, won the Tyestes this season. It's really, really, really good form, and he's got it in him to do it if he wants to do it.
Yeah, I've seen that replay many a time, very familiar with that form, talking myself into backing him, clearly loves this longer trip. Before we sort of wrap up proceedings, what about TOUT PERMIS? He's worth a mention right at the head of the weights, so that necessarily might be a bit of a disadvantage, but he's a really progressive, likeable horse, and they skipped Cheltenham as well with him. Yeah,
skipped Cheltenham. I think he's a good stayer. He's a strong stayer, so I think he'll get this trip nicely. And for those who are kind of a bit worried about going over 11 stone and going to the top end of the weights and everything, you should look back to last year. Bellshill, for 99% of the race he was running under top weight last season. Did absolutely everything right, and looked as though he was going to pulverise his opponents, and I don't think it was lack of stamina or the weight that let him down. Something really strange happened at the last, and apparently it was somebody in a fluorescent jacket by the side of the course that put him off, and he almost came to a standstill, and we got that grandstand finish. So I think top weights can run very well in it, can win it, and so that doesn't necessarily put me off. It's more you're looking for a horse with the mindset who will enjoy this kind of unique race.
Yeah, okay, exactly. To a PERMIS, surely to be in with a shout. Watsy, thanks for joining us. That's all we've got time for today. Best of luck with your bets later on, and we'll see you on a postcast soon.